Hey everyone, welcome back and Happy New Year. Hope you all had a good 2019. I certainly did, and I'm excited for what we can create this upcoming year here. I just finished another shot for my film. It's actually the one I started working on in the last video we made. In that one I did a thumbnail painting and added in the 3D van we created in the video before that. So that's where we left things off. Now I took this and spent a few hours painting in details. Super relaxing work. I just slowly worked my way through the painting, jumping from place to place and bringing it up to a decent quality and making sure that most areas have been rendered in some ways. I like doing backgrounds before I do any character work, and especially if it's a wide shot like this where the full body of our characters will be seen in the entire frame. Having the background painted allows me to simply draw my characters into the perspective of the painting. I'm sure some others prefer to do it the other way, starting with the characters, but I like to establish my shot first. I guess if it's a quick moving shot with a character in the foreground, then maybe that's another story. I guess the subject matters here. If the character is the main component and let's say the background is just blurred or something, then perhaps it's better to start off with him or her, of course. This is how the final background turned out. I love painting vegetation, so these foreground elements were really fun to tackle. For those who might ask, this is painted in Photoshop, and I will also do all the character animations within the same software. I made a new document before I started animating. I merged all my background layers into one to keep things running fast. Then, as you might have seen me do before, I brought up the timeline and created a video timeline. I set the frame rate to be 12 frames per second, and then I also added in a gray layer over my background. I dropped down the opacity slightly so that I can see some of the background, but it basically acts as a washout filter so that when I start drawing line work on top, on a new video layer, I can clearly see what I'm doing. Alright, so what's gonna happen in this scene? This is the first shot in the film where you actually see the characters. I made a video on how I designed one of them, so these two guys are gonna be drawn and animated into this shot. They have just parked their car in this Alpine environment and are getting all their equipments out. Now the film is about these two climbers, so I want to draw the guy lifting his bouldering crash pad out of this side door. I keep it very loose, and I could actually tell that I had not drawn a lot in a while, as I definitely didn't feel confident with the lines to start with. But it's okay at this stage, as this pass will only act as a guide for the next couple of layers that will be drawn on top. I'm trying to establish some key frame poses that I can then add frames in between later to smooth out the animation. I'm working in 4K here, but since the guy is quite small in the frame, I actually don't have that many pixels to go with. However, I think I prefer drawing in its final resolution rather than animating this in like a massive document and then scaling it down later. By not having too many pixels to work with, I think it gives him the right amount of details so it blends well with the background painting. If it would be animated in super high resolution, I think it could look odd when I scale it down later, because I might have added too much detail that then kind of gets compacted down in the end. A lot of the background reference for this film I take from my own surroundings here in the Alps. This shot is set in summertime, but I will definitely feature many seasons within this film. Right now, as it's winter season here in Austria, the mountains look spectacular with all the snow, so I'll try to take advantage of that and get some good shots of snowy peaks in when I get the time. Creating an animated film on my own is quite a big undertaking, but it's a lot of fun and I actually don't really mind the time-consuming process that much. I think the journey towards the goal is as rewarding as seeing it's completed. And also by sharing the steps here with you guys, it helps to keep me motivated and on track. Alright, back to the animation. A lot of this is me trying to figure out where the body parts go. Filming yourself acting it out can really help. You can just use your phone camera, set it up somewhere and try to capture the movement that you are after. Then maybe have that on a second monitor so you can scrub through the frames and find your reference when drawing. You can also just act it out without filming it to get a feel for the motion. After getting my main keyframes drawn, I went into color, and on a new video layer I started blocking in the different shapes. I brought in my design of my character on a separate layer to have it there at all time as a reference. I first drew a full frame so that I knew what I was going for, but after that I focused on separate elements one at a time. Since there are so many frames to draw, anything that can speed this up is welcomed for me, so focusing specifically on, let's say, the blue part of his jacket and getting that covered throughout the whole animation goes a lot faster than painting, let's say, the whole body frame by frame, having to switch the colors around a lot. After finishing all the different elements on this character, I ended up adding in frames between each of the drawn frames to smooth it out. The full animation of this guy alone turned out to be 74 frames, I think, which definitely takes its time. But I think it's worth it in the end. It plays back smoothly this way. The second character I gave a lot less movement. He's waiting for the other guy, just looking over slightly while going through the pictures on his camera. This was finally put together in After Effects, and for the closing car door, I went back to the 3D model of the car which we created in a previous video and animated that closing. Here's the final animation for this shot. I'm mega excited to keep going, so join me here and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you soon. Bye.